Hello everyone, welcome back to the one more session of Management Information System. We'll continue our discussion. We were discussing about the topic called the technology of information system. So before starting with the new concept, let us recall what we have discussed in the previous session. In the previous session, we had discussed about the TQM, that is the Total Quality Management of Information System, and how it is rated with provided with the assurances. And also we have seen the two parts of those technologies which are supported for the betterment of the TQM. And we have also discussed about the key elements of the TQM, that is Total Quality Management. And finally, we had discussed about the steps in implementing the TQM. Let us continue our discussion with respect to the one more topic. In this topic, we would be discussing about the new component that is called the human factors. So when we talk about the human factors, the key concept that we need to concentrate is what do you mean by the human factors. So it can be defined the human factors as the study of all the factors that makes it easier for the work in the right way. Means all the factors that are associated with respect to the human beings that makes him or her to work in a right way is said to be the various factors of human. Or there is one more definition which describes the human factor as such. It is that the definition goes like this: human factors is a study of interrelationship between. This is very interesting. We will see about that. Interrelationship. So we will see interrelationship between what? This is very important. The first thing, it is the interrelationship between the humans, tools. So three component. One, the interrelationship between the humans, tool and the equipments. So it defines as the interrelationship between the humans, tools, equipments they use in the workplace and the environment which make them work comfortable. Means so all those things together constitutes for the various human factors. Means so other humans might be the one more factor for them, and the various tools that they work in the work environment, and also the equipments that they make use of work, or the various equipments, the devices and other things that they make use during their work process, all these things matters and all these things affects the human factors. So human factors finally can be defined as a study of interrelationship between the humans, the tools and the equipments they use in the workplace and the environment in which their work is said to be the human factors. Then what are the difference between the human factors and ergonomics? This is one more thing. Though ergonomics is not directly associated, but it is the alternative which comes under here. When we talk about the ergonomics, it is like a versus. So this and this always comes together hand in hand. So the term ergonomics and human factors can be used interchangeably. Means once this, otherwise this or this or this or this. It goes on. Although ergonomics is often used in the relationship between the physical aspects of the environment. So mainly we look at this, the physical aspects of what? The environment. When we say the physical aspects of the environment where he works, the place where he works, the surrounding environment and the surrounding factors, it might be other persons, it might be the place, it might be the situation of working, the disturbances, all these things matters when you talk about the physical aspects such as the workstation, the control panels, etc. While the human factors is often a relationship between wider system in the working region. So wider aspects, all these things. When you say human factors, it also combines with the ergonomics. So most of the places when we discuss about the human factors, the word ergonomics obviously joins into the concept. So they go hand in hand with respect to the explanation. So this was the difference between the human factors and the ergonomics. Next we'll see some of the examples of human factors. So we have seen about the, what do you mean by human factors? We will see the examples. What does this human factors include? First one is cognitive function. When we talk about the cognitive function, it includes such as the attention, the detection, the perception, memory and the judgment. Many of the time when the worker is not given proper attention, it hinders him to work properly and he feels, so no one is giving me proper attention, why should I work? This is one more parameter. So proper attention should be given to the worker, and also detection. The worker should be detected or the worker should be identified in order to work in his place. So he should be given the priority. And finally perception. What does that employee perceive of himself? If he feels inferiority complex, then he could not work in a proper way, so he goes in a wrong direction. And the memory, so he should have a right memory, means remembering all the aspects of the organization and the processes. And finally he should be in a state of judging what to do, what not to do. And if he is in a confusion state, again it is a one more factor which hinders the work process. The first one, the first type of problem or a human factor that is to be considered is the cognitive function. Second one is reasoning. So when we talk about the reasoning, it includes the heuristics and the biases. Means if he is not able to assess himself, if he feels guilty, or if some biasing is done for him in the organization, then again the employee would feel the problem of working in the organization. That is the second reason, means he is not able to provide the reason for his existence, or he would be not able to provide the reason for working because he is already in a setback mood. So that is called the reasoning. Third one is the decision making. So when we talk about decision making, each of these are further divided into subcategories. Means he should be able to make various decisions in the organization. If he is not able to make decision, means he is not in a proper mindset or in a calm state. So these are said to be some of the examples of human factors that could affect an employee. So this was about the human factors. Next we'll move on to the different factors. Exactly what are those in detail with respect to 12 factors that affects, we'll see one by one. There are 12 main factors that has been mentioned that affects the humans to work efficiently or to an optimal production or for optimal results. We will see what are those 12 factors. First one, lack of communication. This is very important. I have been saying in any of the organization, you get the detail only when you ask, or you get the clarification only when you communicate. You get to understand only when you communicate with co-workers. So communication is a key part in any of the organization. So if a person or a human lacks with respect to the communication, again it is a one more factor. Second one, distraction. So when the person or an employee is distracted with lot of other parameters. When we say distraction with other parameters, it might be his health issues, it might be his family problem, it might be some personal reason, or so and so. With lot of other distractions, he will be not able to cope up with the organization goals. So he might be not efficiently being working. This is said to be the second parameter. The third one is lack of resources. We might ask an employee to work, but if we don't give him a proper resources, he will be not able to work sufficiently. As good as saying, we might ask the student to study. If we don't give up a right permission, right textbooks or a study material, how can the student learn? This is the common thing what you say. In the similar way, a person, to get him to work with the optimal thing, so all the proper resources should be made available to him. So fourth one is the stress. This is key part. So stress might be happening with respect to two reasons. One, a person gets himself stressed with some other reasons, or someone burdens him with lot more work or other parameters. In both the cases, a person gets stressed. A person who is at a stress will be not able to work in an efficient way. So this is the fourth one. Fifth one, so fifth one, it goes like this: compliancy. So what does it mean? It means self-satisfaction. If a person who is working in an organization is not self-satisfied with himself with respect to organization, he would not work properly in the organization, because he is not satisfied with the things. So he just works for the namesake. Again, this is the one more parameter that would hinder. Next is the lack of teamwork. Always remember, when you are in an organization, you are not an individual, you are a team player. This should be understood, because nothing can be done alone. Everything has to go in a team and to be achieved. So in that case, if a person doesn't like to work in a team, or is not capable of handling many people or adjust himself to others, then again it is a drawback. Seventh one, pressure. What does it mean, pressure? If a higher authority is pressurizing him, saying that, providing him a deadline, no, tomorrow you should complete this work, or by next 2 hours you should complete this work. So these kind of pressures will not work in efficient way. So this is the one more human parameter that would cause the work delay. Eighth one, lack of awareness. When we say awareness, a person should know what he is supposed to work and where the resources are there, how to work, everything. So if a person is not aware of what are the things exactly going on, he would panic there. So he would not start the work immediately because he is not aware of what to do and what not to do. So this is the one more parameter, human factor, that causes the delay or a factor with respect to is inefficiency. Ninth one, lack of knowledge. Very important. The person who wants to do the work efficiently should be sufficiently good with respect to the knowledge. So only when you have good knowledgeful things, you are able to finish off the work in an efficient way. So one more concept is called the knowledge. Means if you lack the knowledge, it is a human factor that is causing a problem. 10th one, fatigue. What do you mean by fatigue? Fatigue means exhausted. If you are exhausted, a person is exhausted with doing the work, it doesn't feel like continuing the work or doesn't feel like extending his efficiency. Most of the time you feel like reading only a one subject for a long period of time, you get exhausted. So how to overcome? Switch on to some other subject. So like this. So fatigueness again is a one more human factor. Next, 11th one. Lack of assertiveness. When we say assertiveness, it is called confidence. So, whereas compliancy is self-satisfaction, when you say lack of assertiveness, you should not confuse. Here it is confidence. If a person who is doing the work is not confident enough, obviously he does mistakes. So when you are confident enough with doing the work, you will overcome all the hurdles with the work. So this is the one more parameter factor. Finally, 12th one is the norms. When we talk about norms, what are these norms? Norms are the rules and regulations or the procedures to carry out the work. If a person doesn't know the rules and regulations or the procedures to carry out the work, again it's a problem. So these are the 12 main human factors that could affect the potential of a human being to work in an efficient way. So we'll recall one by one. That is the lack of communication. Second one is the distraction, and the third one is lack of resources. Fourth one is the stress. Then complaincies means the self-satisfaction. If he doesn't have self-satisfaction with the work, it's a problem. Sixth one, lack of teamwork. Seventh one, pressure. Eighth one, lack of awareness. Ninth one, lack of knowledge, fatigue. 10th one. And 11th one, lack of assertiveness, means confidence. If he doesn't have a confidence on his work. And 12th one is said to be the norms. These are the 12 human factors that causes a problem with respect to the organization. Next, we will move on to the continuation of human factors with respect to user interface. User interface. It is called UI. So what do you mean by user interface? When we say about the user interface, is the interaction between the human and the system. Always we expect the user interaction to be very much ease or comfortable. I'll give you a very good example, one best example that was considered. Many of the people doesn't like the Linux operating system, and most of them prefer to use Windows operating system. Why? Because of the user interface. You might have seen earlier Linux, or it was called Unix, where you had lot of command oriented. You did not have a GUI, that is Windows and other kind of supports for easy interaction. So it was all command based. But later still Linux came up with the GUI, but still many of them are liking or they prefer Windows. Why? Because the user interface is very comfortable and user feels of ease of handling this. Means user always expects the ease of interaction. So these kind of interaction between the system and the user is said to be the user interface. Let us know what is that. So user interface was one of the most significant part of information system. So this is not a separate thing, it is a part of an information system. Means in the information system it should be very easy, means user should feel comfortable or the happy, user should feel satisfied with interacting with the information system. User interface or user friendly interface helps user to carry out their task with efficiency. This is very important. Effectively, efficiently, means if you have a proper user interface, it is called user friendly interface. If that is there, the person or a user will feel or he has a comfortability in carrying efficiently, effectively, and finally he is satisfied with the things, means he gets satisfaction with the user interface. This is the three main parts that user interface should provide, means it should provide the easy access, comfortably the user should feel it is very efficiently accessible and it makes the work effectively, and finally it should be very much satisfied with the system interaction. Those kind of operations or interaction are said to be the user interface. And also UI consists 5 elements. This is very important. We will see what are those 5 elements. UI supports 5 elements. What are those 5 elements? The first one is the metaphor. The second one is the mental model. So third one is the navigation. The fourth one is interaction. And fifth one is appearance. We will go one by one in detail. When we talk about the metaphor, you know about the English concept, the grammar metaphor, means in a user interface, the metaphor should be very clear, means whatever the data you give up or the words you use, it should be in a proper and easy understandable thing which is direct with respect to the concept. You are not supposed to use the words which causes confusion to the user. So it should be very clearly and very easily mentionable, means in a general terminologies. Second one, the mental model. When you say about the mental model, the user interface should be very much clear, understanding the human behavior. So what does the human mind works for, or what does the human mind craves for, means what is it asking for. So it should be assessed, and the model of the user interface with respect to information system should be designed in that aspects. And next is a navigation. When we talk about the navigation, when we click or a button, it should not navigate into different places and make us confusion with respect to the moving up from one page to another page or directing into some other websites or another things. So navigation should be in such a way that whatever the information we get, it should be easily navigated, and also the user should feel the comfort of coming back to the previous stage or a previous pages very comfortably. So navigation should be properly handled. Interaction. When we talk about the interaction of the user with the system should be very easy. It is not that always providing command. There should be very good interactive system. How to provide very good interaction, like the commands, clicking, check boxes, drop down list. So rather than user providing all the details, if there is a drop down menu, he feels comfortable in choosing. So all these kinds of things should be assessed. You might be knowing all these things while designing a project. Okay, so all these things are very important to make the things interaction. And finally, appearance. So when we talk about the appearance, very important. So most of the time we keep on changing your project, saying that the user interface or the look and feel is not good. What happens? You give up with a dark background with a dark font, so that the fonts are not at all visible. So it should be always in contrast, means the background should be there, and also the foreground fonts should be easily distinguishable, so that user feels ease. So these are called appearances. And also the thing should be in a quite good aspect ratio. So when we look at any of the user interface with respect to the information, one should feel, so it's so beautiful, very easy to accessible. So these are the words that should come out of the mouth of an user after using a information system. So these are the 5 elements that needs to be considered with respect to the user interface. First one is a metaphor, second one is the mental model, third one is the navigation, fourth one is the interaction, and fifth one is obviously the appearance. These are said to be the important aspects with respect to the 4 elements of the user interface. Next, we will look into the one more concept, that is what is meant by exactly the UI. When we talk about the UI, the user interface is a point at which human users interact with the computer, website and application. Now, where to do this is the question. That question will be answered here. Means, where are these concepts to be incorporated? These concepts should be incorporated with respect to computer, yes, and also websites or applications, where the humans interact. This is very important. So you might be asking, sir, where are these needed? It might be needed with respect to computers. So look and feel of the computer is also important, because human interacts with the computers. And also, where does human retrieve the information? It might be with respect to some application with respect to which has been developed with a console application, or it might be with respect to the web application. So these are the things where human keep interacting with respect to gaining or retrieving of information. So when you talk about those things, these 5 factors needs to be concentrated in incorporating with a proper user interface. The goal to make an effective UI is to make user experience ease. This is the ultimate goal. Main intention of having the proper UI is to make the user experience easy and very satisfaction. If the uses an application and he says it is very easy and I am satisfied, then the intention of having the good UI is satisfied. That is the main thing. Next, when we look into the one more concept, the purpose. So these are the benefits, we know that. Then what is the main purpose? Generally, the goal of user interface design is to produce user interface which makes easy, efficient and enjoyable, that needs to be kept in mind while designing any of the user interface applications. First thing, I'll tell you repeatedly, what are the main things that needs to be considered. This is also applicable with respect to your projects. When you are developing a project, so the UI, what is that a UI user looks with respect to UI? 3 points. 1, it should be very easy and it should be efficient. when it's called it efficiently, to the optimal working condition. And finally, user should feel or he should be enjoying using that application. Only then the UI is said to be a appreciable and a very good UI design. Then the result is to a maximum. Then we approach the UI system to a maximum extent. So when we talk about the different types of UI, so what are there are different types that needs to be considered while developing the UI. So what are those? We'll see. It goes like this. There are 5 main types of UI. So we have seen how to make the UI efficient or an interactive way. There are 5 kinds of UI. What are those? We see that. The first one is called the command line. So you might have seen when you open the DOS mode. So there are few systems where we interact only with respect to a command mode, where there are different commands. To obtain the date, we use date. To obtain the various directory, we use dir, /w, /p, various extensions or supporting commands along with the main command. So here, first type of interaction the UI is with the system is called the command line of interaction. The second one is the graphical user interface. We call it as GUI. This command line is said to be CLI. So you know very well the graphical user interface, where when you click on this, a window pops up, okay, so and a drop down menu comes up. These are called the graphical user interface. Next is called menu driven. So what is menu driven? When you call it a menu driven, it is denoted by in a short MDI. So when we look into the website like this, consider the website, there would be lot of menus. On click of particular menu, you will be navigated to different places as per the requirement. This is called menu driven. Next is form based. Rather than acquiring or taking the data in a general text method or a continuous text, it is appropriate to take in a form. When we take about the data in a form way, it is very clear and distinguishable from one parameter to another parameter. When we talk about parameter to parameter, we will be able to bifurcate with the name, with the surname, parent's name, mother's name, father's name, and we have a different separation. That separation can be made easily. So to achieve that, we have form based interaction. And finally, natural languages. So when we talk about natural languages, we call it as NLI. These are the short forms used for the different UIs. When you talk about the developers, so you might have seen the project leaders extend their word saying that you can interact for obtaining with CLI, means there you can adopt the command line operation. If they say GUI, it is graphical user interface concept. If they say MDI, means menu driven concept. If they say FBI, it is form based, and if they say NLI, it is natural languages. These are the 5 types of user interfaces that has been using till today. So you have to choose the best user interface that suits to your application, means with respect to the information system. Making the optimal best utilization where the user feels ease and efficient, and users should feel the satisfaction. In order to make him all these things, you are supposed to use any of these 5 types of UI. So these were with respect to 5 types of UI. When we talk finally with respect to human factors, so the information systems are designed for the users who are already human beings, which should be considered. And next, the human beings are the drivers of information systems to meet their information need. So humans are the drivers. When you call it the driver, they borrow the data, they fetch the data, they process it, and they push the data to different places, means they are said to be the drivers, where they take the data and they push the data to the various things. That's why we call the human beings are said to be the drivers of the information system. The user of an information system is made through interactive process. So when we say about human are the processes which makes interactive processes between human beings and the system. So when humans are interacting with the system, 2 things to be made. The human factors should be considered. So all the human factors we have discussed in the beginning of the session, and now we have seen about the user interfaces. So these 2 things should be taken care. So in order to get the information system is rightmost activated and operated to the best utilization. I'll repeat it again. So human factors should be corrected and thoroughly maintained, and also proper UI should be there in order to get the best utilization of a information system. This is about the human factors and the user interface. Many a times, in spite of information system and the software design being good, the user interfaces are not properly built. So you should take care of this. You might say that the software is producing a very good result, but still there is no proper human interfaces. The user doesn't have been provided with the proper kinds of interfaces in order to interact with the system. That causes discomfort to the users. So you should keep in mind. So if you don't provide the comfortness for the user, then the software or whatever the application what you have designed is of no use for the users. So when we talk about all these things, it is very clear whether you are using an user interface, using an information system, or you are developing an information system. 2 main things that need to be kept in mind is the various human factors, because we know that 12 human factors, the humans with all those factors will be in an organization. We need to comfort them with all those things. And also we have seen the different UIs and also the best utilization of UIs. So both the things needs to be considered. Only then the information system could be developed in a good fashion and a very good manner, and the best utilization of the information system could be achieved. So summarizing this, we have discussed in this session what is meant by the human factors, what is the difference between the human factors and the ergonomics, what are some of the examples with respect to human factors. We have seen the 12 important factors that causes the difference with respect to the optimal workstations or the work processes with respect to human beings. We have discussed about the UI, that is the user interface, what is meant by user interface, and what is the purpose of user interfaces. And we have mainly seen the 4 different types of user interfaces and also the conventional types what we have seen. And finally, we have discussed the importance of human factors and human interfaces. These are the things I had wished to discuss in this session. Thank you very much.